Hey everyone, sorry for the delay. I've been setting up a little bit. I will start actually coding shortly. Okay, hi everyone. I was, as I said, setting up a little bit and just had to get some things in place. But I should be able to continue now. Tonight I'll be working, as I said on Twitter, I'll be working on a number of CSS projects, including Pineapple CSS, Anole, and Iguana. And I possibly will start another project which will be a series of animations which will be in a CSS library, and that one I'll probably name after some kind of reptile as well because I want to keep some consistency. So I think the name will be Amoeba, which is a kind of lizard we have here. You can look for that to show up online soon. Well, after the stream, obviously, but we'll see where that goes. Just waiting on Atom to start, and then I can get to coding. By the way, don't judge me. I don't use VS Code. I don't like it. It's not really my thing. It doesn't really fit my style, so I use Atom instead. Even though Atom has its own issues and freezes at random on this system, I still don't like VS Code. So, and it's not that I don't like Microsoft. I really don't like Microsoft, but that's not the reason. It's just that I don't really like VS Code itself. The interface doesn't suit me. Oh, by the way, if you're new to this stream, to my streams, Pineapple CSS is a library a framework that I decided to create on my stream, and I'll be working on that in future streams going forward. It doesn't really have any sense of direction to it. It's just sort of impromptu, so I'm just sort of building at random as I go and seeing what becomes of it. The plan eventually, though, is to build a framework that you can drop in and go. Although my typical thing is I don't really like frameworks that take over everything like how Bootstrap does, or used to do, because no one really, I shouldn't say no one, most people don't use Bootstrap anymore. But I don't really like frameworks that take over everything, so mostly everything will use classes, and you have to actually decide that you want to use it, which is how Anole works. If you've, well, I don't think most of you would have seen it before, but if you go and check the code for my other framework, which is a null, everything has to basically be called when you want it, instead of just taking over your code as soon as you drop it in. So if you take a look at this, for instance, the body has a class attached to it, and that class is what pulls in everything else. Once you do that, your page is set up, fonts are set up, colors, all that stuff, instead of doing like how Bootstrap does, where if you drop it in your file, then everything is taken over. I don't really like that. Anyway, so let's get right to it. First thing that I want to fix here is the responsiveness of this nav bar, because as you can tell, it's not yet responsive. And so I'm gonna have to find create a media query. I don't have a media query yet for responsiveness. And I'm gonna cheat here because I usually forget the syntax for media queries, which I guess is probably true of basically everyone. So right, I'm gonna just cheat and grab the code from on my church website and copy it over like a true programmer would do. And then I'm going to, let me find, where is it? Well, oh yeah, one thing I didn't do is add a class for the navs, but I will add that eventually because I don't like to take over everything. This is just the initial form of the framework that works this way, but I will change that in the future. Oh, sorry about that just now. I had a little issue on my system where it was showing me the stream as paused. I'm not sure if that's just my laptop or if that is happening anywhere else. So that's why I wasn't talking or doing anything. Seems like it's still running though, so I'll continue. Sorry about that. I forgot to change the stream name as well. So let me fix that. Okay, there we go. Now what these here will do, if you're not familiar with CSS, obviously text align is pretty straightforward. It will align the text to the left, and text overflow, no wrap will stop it from going on to another line, and text overflow ellipsis will make sure that if your text goes over a certain level that you'll see some dots instead. Now the last thing I need to add here is overflow hidden, to actually hide overflow when it occurs. So now you can see all these links have the same size except this one, because this one has some extra stuff in it. But it should basically, if I make this smaller, it should actually hide their overflow. Yeah, I believe it is doing that. I need to double check on the documentation for the text overflow and make sure that I did the right thing with the ellipsis, because it should be showing 3 dots. Some of this stuff is hard to remember, as you can imagine, because there's so many things to remember when you're doing coding. And I don't use this every day, so I'll just double check quickly and make sure that I didn't forget anything. Alright, I don't think I did, so in any case, let me just check something over here in the HTML. Alright, good, everything is using no classes. Actually, just to keep to my word, let me fix the fact that they're not using classes, because they should be. It was just doing this to make things a little faster, but let me move this to Pineapple, which will be used on the body. Take this out of HTML altogether. Oops, pressed the wrong key there. Now all these things are things that should be decided long before you get into actually developing a framework, especially if you're not using Sass or Less or whatever. I personally like to use plain old CSS because that's just me, but most people these days don't bother to do that, so you can change everything on the fly. I could change everything with a find and replace too, but I chose not to. For some reason, using CSS is therapeutic for me. I don't understand why my brain is like that, but it just is. Alright, that's everything. Oh, forgot to change this. Good, everything is changed, and now we can update our HTML. Now there's another reason why I like to use classes for basically everything, and that is that you can decide where you want your styles to be used within a page, and then you can skip over some of them. So take for instance, if you look at annul's code, for instance, all this stuff here is covered by the class annul, but if I turn it off, then I still get to use some of the features of annul without overriding everything. So I'm going to take it off, and as you can see, this header is still styled These components are still styled, but I can replace the background, replace the font, because the font is actually under that class as well. I can change the text spacing, all that stuff, and still keep the components in place. So that's one of the reasons I like to use classes. If you use the approach that Bootstrap uses, or at least used to use, I haven't used it since version 3, so I'm not sure if version 4 or 5, and however many other versions there are still do this, but if you're using Bootstrap 3, there's kind of an annoying problem where if you're using it just for, say, like buttons and columns, well, the grid and all that stuff, you still get their text styles, you still get their padding for buttons and all the other things that you didn't ask for. So that's why I like to use classes for just about everything. Let me just reload this. Right. I don't need a class on these because they should already have. Let me just double check my CSS and make sure I didn't miss anything. Somehow this nav is not pulling in the right class. Did I misspell something and not notice it? Should it be? Alright, just to be certain, because clearly I must be tired, let me just copy and paste. Save myself some trouble. It's exactly the same thing, so what am I missing? Wow, it's so weird. Does anyone ever wonder why computers manage to embarrass you whenever you're doing something important? Let me try something here. Oh, that was a mistake. Good. Okay, so clearly I did something wrong, didn't notice. Let me try this again. It should work. Just have to select from here to here. No, I still don't want it to do that though. Okay, I'm gonna have to do this by hand, but I'm still not understanding why it didn't pick up my styles. That should be so simple and straightforward, and for some reason it just decided not to find anything. Right? I mean, it's amazing. You would think that the most simple and straightforward things would be simple and straightforward always. And then some random error happens and nothing works. Oh, come on. I can't believe this isn't finding this. I wonder if this is just Vivaldi that's doing this, because I have a feeling that it is. I'm going to try Firefox, and I'm almost certain that this is going to work in Firefox, because it did this the last time. After I ended the stream, I tested something that wasn't working in Vivaldi in Firefox, and believe it or not, it was working. Then I restarted Vivaldi and it was working. So I have a feeling that this is just Vivaldi being special. Because logically, this should be working. Oh, you know what I miss? I can't believe I missed this. I forgot to add class. Now how funny is that? I can't believe I missed that all this time. But the last time what I mentioned did actually happen. Something was giving me trouble in Vivaldi. I closed it after I ended the stream, tried it in Firefox, and it worked. Then I restarted Vivaldi and it worked. Alright, so now that that strange bug has been fixed, let me see if I can track down what's happening here with the nav being padded, or the body being padded, because it shouldn't be. Alright, let me put this back in HTML and see if that fixes it. No, that wasn't what I had before, was it? Let me just check the inspector and see what's happening here, because something is padded when it shouldn't be. Alright, well, since the user agent style sheet is overriding, I'm going to use something they always tell you not to use, which is important. See if that fixes it. Still? That is so weird. Okay, back to square one again. And the font family is not being set either, I just realized that. Alright, well, let me change that back. Instead of using a class, it should work. I'm not sure why it's being overridden. Yeah, it does work. But I don't understand that. Well, can't figure that one out, and I'm not stressing myself over it either. Once I get some sort of a result at this point, I'll debug that later. So, where was I? They always tell you about specificity, and sometimes specificity doesn't seem to be the problem, because a class is specific enough. Now this here shouldn't have any margin. Alright, let me just set height on this one. Get it back to how it was before. When in doubt, use Flexbox. That's my motto, and that's what I'm going to do. I want to get everything in alphabetical order so that the linter plugin doesn't tell me anything about it if I turn it on. Display flex, align items. Center, justify content center as well. Right, there we go. And now, let me find. Oh, there's none of those? I'm surprised. Oh, right, there it is. I'm gonna copy this and stick it under this media query. Oops. I keep pressing page up and page down when I mean to press end and home because of my new keyboard. Things are moved around, I don't remember where they are. This should be align, no, not align item, justify content, flex start. In fact, instead of using this, let me be very specific because I may change this in the future. So did I choose the right thing? This should be Apple, not app. How did that get to be Apple? Well, app I mean. Oh, you know what I forgot to turn off as well? Text overflow. this to be hidden. It is, no, not text overflow, it is, I just wrote it and can't remember it. I need to use it more often. Oh, look, it's right there. Oops, cat. I pressed the wrong thing again, and I just accidentally closed that tab. I need to really learn this keyboard. My apologies. Oops, wrong one. Okay, back to square one. Where it was again? No. This should be right, and then this should be overflow and not text overflow. Hidden. This should be text align left. And let me just check and see if there's any padding on let me take you up to. And I'll check and see if there's any padding on the title. How do I keep closing this tab? Does anybody know how long it takes some muscle memory to develop? Because I can't remember. Okay, there's... Oh, here it is. This is what I was looking for. This variable. I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to give it... Well, not duplicate it, actually. I'm going to put it under the media query and change the variable when it is... when it is on a smaller screen. By the way, I really love using custom properties, aka variables, in CSS because it saves you a lot of trouble and makes everything more flexible. Something's still missing here. Or at least I think it is. Alright, white space, no wrap, I forgot to put that in. Now another option I could use is to hide text altogether in the title and have it just show an image, but I'll probably do that at a smaller screen size because what I'll do is have these links do that, and then I'll have the title remain as text until it gets down to about maybe, I don't know, 500 px or 300 or so, because my plan eventually is to have all links move out into a menu automatically. Actually, let me get to that right away so that I don't forget. give an example of what I'm aiming for here, although it doesn't work exactly the same way. If you look at the Anole website, I already have a menu, and this is pure CSS by the way. This doesn't use JavaScript. This is a menu that shows up only on mobile devices, but when you are on the full page, this is what you'll see. Like on a desktop or a tablet that's wide enough, it will show you this. So you have two menus with a lot more information than when you're on a mobile device. Oops, I forgot my mic was far away. Sorry about that. What I was saying was that when you're on a mobile device that's under 778 megapixels, this is what you'll see on Anole, and this is pure CSS. And when you are on a full device like a desktop or a tablet that's wide enough, this is what you'll see with more menus that have submenus and everything. It's going to work a little differently on Pineapple because instead of having separate elements, you'll have one element. This here will collapse and become a menu. All that will be included inside of the same div or whatever other element you decide to use, and it will turn into a mobile menu later on. But I'm not going to implement that tonight. I'm just kind of running through some rough ideas to get them out of my head, and I'll fill them in later. This here should use all caps, so I'm going to use text transform uppercase. Right, that looks much better now. Another thing I'm going to do is give the what you might call the title component a default size or a default minimum size. So where is it? I need to find it back. Right, I was right by it. My brain sometimes does that. So I need minimum width, and I'm going to use the screen size to determine that. I'm going to put it to 15 VW view width. Let's see if this works as I intend. Alright, let me make that. On mobile devices, I'm going to make it bigger. I may change this in the future though, because my idea is to have the title become an icon at certain sizes. Let me just double check something here, because this should be saying, or it should be showing me a different size. Okay. Why can't I seem to drag this? This is one of the reasons I much prefer developing in Firefox than Chromium based browsers, because some of the quirks that you get are so annoying. Okay, where was I? It is right. I wonder if I wrote this media query incorrectly. I believe, yep, I did. I can't believe I did that. I had max width all this time, and it should have been min width instead of max. Oh, hi Eric. Sorry I didn't notice you there before. I wasn't checking my chat. Okay, now this is working like it should. Just to be 100% sure that this is doing what I want it to do, I'm going to do something crazy and see if it does what I expect. Did it? Alright, let me just double check media queries. I always forget media queries and which is which. This is one of the things that you get to see live when someone's coding, because all of us go through this. You forget the most basic things. Oh, I had it correct at first. Not min width, max width. I'm going to set this to 75, even though that's crazy. It's still not doing what it should do, so let me try using width on here just to... Okay. I've been using CSS for years, and sometimes I don't understand the quirks. So I can understand anybody who says they hate it, because some days it makes you want to hit. Because, like, take for instance, min width and max width should work regardless of what size we're at. Like min width, for instance, should give me the same result as width here. But sometimes, for some reason, and I need to check the documentation and see why this is, it doesn't work. And I'm not sure what it is that I'm missing, but logically it should work, at least to the best of my memory. So I'm not sure why. In any case, at least I got that sorted. Alright, that looks a little more even. Don't worry about all these overlapping, I'll fix that when I get around to it. All these are supposed to become images at a certain size, which means that I'll have to actually add them here. And beyond a certain size, everything will become a mobile menu, like what you see over here in a node. Alright, another thing I have to fix is the height of those links. So I'm going to add height to this. That shouldn't actually be necessary now that I look at it, because I already have it here. So why aren't they giving... Right, let me check something. Oh, my mistake. I forgot that I added them to div, so Pineapple nav menu. Height is usually calculated based on the height of the containing parent, which in this case would be the menu, so the rest of the elements in here are not going to be at their maximum height. So let me just move them out for the time being. Double check that everything works as it should. Right, okay. Yeah, I had forgotten that I had done that. So I will get around to fixing this. Well, not fixing, but implementing this menu later. Not really planning to work on that tonight. And now let me get to something more interesting. Some actual in-page components. By the way, I can't tell if the stream is still running because on my laptop where I can see chat and everything, I'm not actually seeing anything. So if you're still there, just let me know. Now, for anyone who's wondering why I'm not using CSS Grid, it confuses my head, so I never really bothered to get too much into it. I've looked into it, played around with it, not a big fan. I mean, it's cool and all, and I'm sure it works pretty well for those who use it, but I much prefer Flexbox, because at least as far as my brain works, Flexbox just makes sense. Even though it's one-dimensional, and when I'm doing art, I work with 2D, 3D, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. When I'm doing CSS for some reason, all the stuff you have to remember with CSS Grid is just too much. So I'm a Flexbox guy all the way. Maybe one day when I feel like it, I'll dedicate myself to really getting familiar with it, but for right now, Flexbox works well enough, does its job, and that's one I'm going to keep using. Now let me actually implement these. I was going to originally have that as one class, but I'm going to split that into two so that you can have a document and a flexible grid. So the grid doesn't need to have any style information. The columns will, but the columns and rows will, but the actual document class should be something else. I'll work out those details in my head as I go. Similar to how in a null, which most of you wouldn't be familiar with because it's new, I have this menu hasn't been fixed yet. Alright, let me go to boxes. I have in box and in info box, and then there's in sunken place. And this one is a pretty funny one. I won't explain if you don't know what this refers to. Oh, thanks, Eric, by the way. I'm glad to know I'm inspiring you to get back into art and design. That's my goal, to inspire others and hopefully, encourage those who haven't tried it yet to try it and realize you don't have to be an expert. You can just jump right in. And by the way, this framework that I'm looking at here is one that I designed as an experiment to see how much I could do in CSS when I first started to really get serious about it. I still have a lot of work to do on this page, so on these pages I should say, because this documentation doesn't get nearly as much love as the framework itself. So a lot of the stuff that the framework is capable of is not actually showcased here because I never really got back to the documentation. I don't mind writing documentation, but it's not my biggest interest, so I have to take my time and get back to it. But right, as I was saying, if you are familiar with the sunken place, then you know why I named this in sunken place. If not, Google it. I won't explain it, but yeah. But similar to that, I'm going to create a bunch of different styles for Pineapple. So you'll have document, and then you'll have the flexible grid and various other systems like that. Some will have design, some will not. So some are just for layout, and some are for both layout and design. You can blend the two together. Oops. Still getting accustomed to this new keyboard. Everything is in some strange places, or at least it feels that way. It's just that my fingers have to get accustomed to the feeling of it. Okay, what style should this have? First I need to figure out the height of the nav menu so that I can give this a proper position. So nav menu is 45 pixels, so the margin at the top should be 45 pixels. And then box shadow, which will give us a nice backdrop. In fact, instead of 45, yeah, I'll leave it at 45 pixels. And I'll give it a margin on the sides of 5 v width. There we go. We made this a little thinner. Something else I forgot to do here is to make the nav menu stay at the top of the document at all times. So I'm going to give that a position. But I'm also going to use a custom property for that because I want it to be flexible enough that you can decide if you want to leave it there or not. Because I want this to be themable. Just like annul is themable. You can't see that here, but if I go to... Actually, let me duplicate this tab. I'm going to show you a page that uses annul but uses its own custom theme. So, on my page, by the way, also uses annul. So all these here are annul components, but they've been restyled using CSS custom properties. And if I go to my Let's Talk page, which is my little soapbox, you'll see again these are all annul components and they've been restyled using CSS custom properties. So everything looks completely different from here and from here. And all that is pure CSS as well, by the way. I rarely use JavaScript unless I have to. Nothing against it, just not my favorite thing. I used to be more of a C++ guy, and JavaScript kind of rubs us the wrong way, so forgive me for not using JavaScript more. And right, as I was saying, I forgot what I was saying earlier. So I'll just try to jump back into... Oh, right. I want to keep everything themable in Pineapple, so that's why I'm using CSS custom properties for everything, or at least as much as I can. So that way you can just copy this section here that says root to another file and switch everything you want around, drop it in your file, in your HTML file, and have a different theme from the standard framework. I'm gonna add the margin for documents as a variable as well.